Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is October 17th, 2017. There are 5 days left actively of politicking to go before the election for this year. Michael?
It's coming down right to the wire. We're going to have this loaded up a day or so later, and so more developments will have come. But right now, it's really on fire out there.
It really is, and it is somewhat rare in the Japanese political world for an epochal change to occur and splayed out right in front of you. I mean, we have seen the destruction of political parties, the emergence of political parties that have sprung like mushrooms without any funding and who are launching, 60 new candidates.
It's an amazing process that we've been able to see. And, okay, credit to Mr. Abe to just throwing everything into the winds.
What a brilliant move.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he must have thought this was brilliant. And it has spawned
unintended consequences.
It has spawned a whole set of movements that perhaps there was always a certain momentum toward them. This concept that Japan should have really a pair of clearly defined ideological parties, that where you have the
choice,
where you have conservatives versus liberals, or left versus right, or whatever it is that there be some kind of binomial and
some glue that holds democracy
some
together.
Kind of binary thing,
right.
That you could have alternation and you would have a clear choice. Well, that seems to be the way it's working out. It's not binary. There's a whole bunch of parties working it out, but nevertheless, you're getting down to some really ideological parties that have some real clout that just didn't exist a few weeks ago.
Right. Let's talk about the Prime Minister's party, the Liberal Democratic Party. It looks like it's going to scoop a lot of candidates.
Well, it's going to seemingly get at least 300 seats. That's if current trends continue. But the trends have been all over the place.
Every day.
You see the trend polls that come out on a daily basis. I don't know if some of the media organizations are going to be dropping out of this, but those who are trying to keep up with what's going on are finding that voters are really shifting their votes really rapidly. We had the rapid rise of the Hope Party just a few weeks ago, and it looking like it had some kind of momentum. And then it hit a brick wall when Koike-san decided not to run and told everyone that she was not going to run. At that point, the momentum flowed immediately into the remnant party of the DP, the CDPJ, the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, which is now, if we are to trust Fuji Television's poll, their most recent one, is now in the number 2 position in terms of voters who support it. Now, Fuji Sankei polls always have some operational issues that make them kind of iffy, but nevertheless, it seems to have emerged as, at least for the proportional vote, because you have the 2 ballots, in the proportional vote, it's going to do very, very well.
Right. How did Koike's Hope Party crater as badly as it did?
Well, it's just that it was a vehicle for her. The whole idea was, why not have a woman prime minister? Let's do something with this. And because she has this personal attractiveness that people assumed would be able to keep a party going, a lot of elements that, let's call them opportunistic folks, latched on to her.
But, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but she never claimed that she's running for prime minister. She's solid as governor of Tokyo. She never said she was going to throw her hat into the ring, even though she was invited to, and if you don't, you're going to lose all these votes, and she stuck to her position. She's still the governor. She's not running as a candidate.
Yeah, but she's wounding herself just by being around. Right now today, she's in Kyushu, trying to drum up some kind of interest for her candidates. But since she was the message, she's the message of change, that she cannot be the prime minister, since she will not be in the Diet. It's a requirement.
Right.
It's a constitutional requirement that they must be Diet members.
Didn't bother me. I mean, I don't have the right to vote, but from a political perspective, she was kind of a shining light in a sea of just blips.
Yeah, but the thing is that if she's not going to be their candidate, who is? And if that's not determined, and it will be some lesser person who doesn't have the attractiveness, what's the point of giving them your vote? Mm-hmm. It's just a lifeboat for remnants of the Democratic Party and a few other parties here and there.
It became that. But, I mean, she was maybe a voice of opposition, a challenge to the Abe administration. I mean, a lot of people just won't vote for Abe because he's Abe, because they're sick and tired of it. And every time he wins an election, he says, now I have a mandate, and all of those things that I did, I receive your endorsement.
Yeah, but when he says I have a mandate, it's a mandate of 17 million votes out of a possible 100 million, which is okay. That the electoral system is engineered that way, that you get a landslide victory out of 17%.
And isn't the LDP kind of engineered to always be the winner?
Well, yeah, that's always there as well. But nevertheless, the system that exists, to say that he has a mandate, he doesn't even. If you were to compare the number of votes the LDP gets, it's not even half as many people as the people who don't show up.
Sure,
right?
60%. Yeah, I mean the undecideds.
The undecideds are 60%, and 43% or 47% of the people don't show up at all. You know, if you could get some of those people into the voting booth, then you can actually make a huge change, because the actual support for the LDP is really small. And that's where the CDPJ looks like it's making its move. Mm-hmm. It's not cannibalizing from other existing parties their votes. It seems to have pulled from out of the undecideds a large number of people who have, face it, have had no one to vote for a very, very long time. And it's also drawing the interest of groups and individuals you would never associate with the liberal side of the political spectrum. In particular, I mean, we had this stunning example today of Ishihara Shintaro, the infamous right-wing, anti-Chinese, hardcore authoritarian former governor of Tokyo, coming out and saying, it's like Sekigahara out there, nothing but cowards and traitors. The only real man out there is Edano Yukio of the CDPJ. That's the only real guy. And that is just outrageous. It's just, how can isn't he the enemy? Mm-hmm. He's the left-wing China hugger, isn't he? It's attracted Ishihara's attention. We have Kobayashi Yoshinori, the infamous right-wing manga artist, at least that's the way he's been portrayed for the last decade in Western analyses. He's campaigning with Tsujimoto Kiyomi, who is old Socialist Party in Osaka. He's campaigning for her and for the CDPJ. They're attracting all kinds of people who are interested in, yes, anti-Abeism.
Right.
But it's an anti-Abeism of principle. They call themselves the Constitutional Democratic Party because their basic sales pitch is, okay, we don't have a lot of policies all dressed up. We don't have a whole bunch of ideas on how to give money out. But whatever we do, we'll do it according to the law. Right. And that's where Mr. Abe is weak. He's got the Moritomo Gakuen scandal. He's got the Kake Gakuen scandal. He played fast and loose with the Constitution in terms of the collective security legislation. He has people out there who don't like the way he does things. Maybe the outcomes are really mild, but they don't like it, that he bends or breaks the Constitution to get where he is.
And it really only takes that little sliver, doesn't it? I mean, for voters to be turned off or to walk across the aisle and vote, to a different party.
It's really they're
very fickle.
In terms of, well, also the policy choices are relatively limited.
Right.
If you look at what the Hope Party's economic policies and also the LDP's, they're virtually the same. There's not much that the CDPJ could do differently, and even communists, if you ask them, okay, what's the socialist paradise that you're going to create? It doesn't look tremendously different from what the LDP wants to make. So that the actual choices are actually in a very narrow band, and at that point it becomes valence issues, primarily the nuclear issue. We're for immediate shutting down of all nuclear power plants versus a slow phase out versus we have to have them as a base power. Those are there, but those don't inspire people.
That's right.
And the thing is, it's only in 2009, just a few years back, that we had nearly 70% of the electorate show up. It was 69 point something that showed up in 2009 for that exciting election. If you can get some excitement, inject some incitement into this process, there are tens of millions of votes out there that have just been rotting since 2012. If you can get them in there, you change the entire framework. On the proportional side, on the district side, I think it's a lock for the LDP. There are too many candidates opposition candidates running against each other that'll knock each other out, leaving the LDP in power.
Well, from a personal perspective, I really was hoping for Koike's party, the Party of Hope, because it did interject a freshness and a new idea, and it created really a kind of new tomorrow for a lot of people. And I'm just so disappointed that it began to be something for everybody except for you guys, right? Mm-hmm. And as a consequence, it began to lose that momentum, but the momentum was picked up by yet a new party.
Yeah, I'm on record as not being in favor of Koike's style of politics. I have an article out in Newsweek Japan this week where I perhaps unwisely say that Stalin would be very impressed by the way she handles her personnel issues. That's probably not going to do too well with her. I might not get an invitation anytime soon. But it's because she's rough.
People love you for other reasons.
Yeah, she's rough on people in a way. And one of the persons who highlighted Ishihara's little comment saying that I the only person who's a man here is Edano Yukio, is a Hope candidate. And he says, I know what he's saying. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I think you need an iron-fisted individual if you're going to be playing in this game.
No, I disagree, and because the game is two parts. To be prime minister, sure, you need someone who's able to make decisions and make the tough decisions and say yes and no versus people. But in the Japanese parliamentary system, you have to be both the PM and the head of your party in the Diet. And being the head of the party, the president of, let's say, the LDP or the leader of the Hope Party, whatever, you have to have a softness, a forgivingness. You have to be able to go out and listen to what other members of your party are saying and create a consensus. And that she is absolutely unable to do. Mm-hmm. So, yes, you need the Iron Lady, or I call her the Iron Butterfly, right. But you also need that ability to lead within a party, and there she completely failed.
But those are comparing two different things.
But that's the same job. If you're PM, you must do both. That's the parliamentary system. You don't get to choose.
No, she's not PM. She is a governor, and she doesn't have to respond to a cabinet.
But if you're going to have a party at all, it is for the purpose of taking power.
But the prime minister must resign as a faction head when he becomes prime minister.
Oh, if he's a faction head, and Mr. Abe has resigned from his faction. But I'm talking about the presidency of the LDP, which we both know he is. Right. He's the president. And so, yes, it's not quite as touchy-feely as the faction relationship, but still, as the leader of the LDP, he has to have a soft touch sometimes, and he has. He's let the jostling happen, and only once did he put down his fist when he had his own faction leader, Hosoda, when he put him in one of the Yonyaku positions, and that didn't go so well, and so he pulled him out.
Right.
This is a situation where if you want to be serious in politics, you have to have a candidate who can be prime minister. That's what Edano represents for the CDPJ. That's what Mr. Abe represents for his party. And when this is all said and done, they're going to, when they have the extra session, each party is going to vote for its own party leader for a prime minister. You have to have that. Hope doesn't have a hope.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the lady in charge.
Well,
So-
there was a temptation for her actually to throw her hat in, right?
No, of course, and it could have been done so easily. All they had to do was put her a number 1 on their proportional list.
I'm glad she didn't.
I think it's disastrous for her party. But since I see them as largely a product either of people who didn't have a hope or were just rank opportunists, for the most part.
I mean, it's a long haul. I mean, just let's set up the party first of all. I mean, whoever they have.
September the 29th, right?
Right.
September the 28th. We're talking about just a few weeks ago, and it's already gone from a Mack truck that is flying through a brick wall, and then suddenly it falls off a cliff. What are the metaphors that you can use?
Well, our next viewing of Tokyo on Fire is in 2 weeks, so we have a lot to talk about it at that point in time. But between now and then, there are going to be an awful lot of changes and an awful lot of Ronin milling through town.
There's going to be a lot that's once the election's only going to be the beginning of the story.
It's going to get really hot after that, isn't it?
It's going to get hot after that. The Hope Party, I don't know if it'll last even a day after the election is over, because they are so resentful regarding this decision that the ostensible leader did. Now, they're holding hands right now, but the moment that 8 o'clock bell rings on Sunday, they're going to all let go and start walking their separate ways. It's going to get really interesting really fast.
What an exciting time in Japanese politics. We love delving into this. Please continue to join us. The Fat Lady hasn't sung yet.